Hi, everybody. This is Jim Cornette, pro wrestling legend, and you're listening to the Book in the Territory Unprofessional Wrestling Podcast.
This is the artist formerly known as Daryl Van Horn, James Mitchell, the Sinister Minister, and I'm here to let you know I would rather slam my cock in a car door than to miss the dulcet tones of Hard Body Harper, my illegitimate son, on Booking the Territory podcast.
Woo, Messi, this is professional wrestler Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man. Tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss Booking the Territory. Oh, yeah.
This is a one-man gang. You're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Booking the Territory, the Unprofessional Wrestling Podcast, where today we are covering WCW Saturday Night on TBS from January the 18th, 1992. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, hit subscribe and the like button for us and stick around for some outlaw mud show shenanigans and old school wrestling talk as only BTT can do. And before I throw it to Doc, big time shout out to Disrespectfully Classy, Marky Blassie, Mike Shorty, Joe Ice, and good old Justin for your generous support on Patreon each and every month and for basically being the sponsors of this show so that we don't have to shill our wonderful listeners with useless ads that they'll never use the product of. Doc, how are you? It's just you and I, and we'll explain in a second.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Do you really want the answer to that? All right, he just had a kid walk in, so I'm going to cover for him for a second. So the reason Harper is not here is because we have a clash coming up. So typically what Doc and I do is we'll get the last Saturday night out of the way before the clash. That's what we're doing now. Harper couldn't make it at the time we're recording this. Our hopes is to have him for the clash, but he won't respond to our messages. Although he's all over Facebook in these last couple of hours, he won't respond to our messages letting us know, yes, I'm there, or no, I'm not there because of X, Y, and Z. So that's what's going on, and that's why Harper's not here, but we're hoping he's here for the clash as Doc and I move our schedules around to accommodate the superstar because he's a superstar. Doc, are you there now?
I am here. I had a run in there right at kickoff, and per our prior conversation, the vacuum cleaner started at 25 minutes ago. That's a shoot.
Okay.
Yeah. It's summertime. It's summertime, and everybody's in the house during the day, and they just don't know how to behave. When you work from home, man, they do not know how to behave.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But you got little kids, so that's a whole nother dilemma.
Well, yeah, one of them's not feeling so. Whatever. I ain't trying to talk about that because we're here, but I will say this: I am in a good mood. I mean, you and I just got through putting in the 10 hours, but I'm in a great mood because I've saved all my sick time, and I'm gonna get mysteriously ill right around the holidays.
That's real nice.
Oh, see, just like that.
Sure, asshole.
No,
that's called fraud. You really shouldn't brag like that.
No,
like
with
that.
my luck, I probably will have to take it because I really am sick. I've just been lucky,
right.
so you know what I'm saying. Stop trying to point out my crimes in the digital sphere.
You're the one on an open channel on a podcast that goes out.
You're the one that mysteriously watches all these pay-per-views, but never seems to pay for the view.
What pay-per-view are you talking about?
Man, I'm always talking to you, and you're like, yeah, I saw that. I'm like, how'd you see that? Did you order it? Thanks for inviting me over. I just split the cost.
Saw what? What pay-per-view?
All of them, dude. All of them.
The only pay-per-views I tell you I watch are WWE ones. That's why I'm real confused.
The other ones that you watch.
There's no other ones.
You've seen some, and you're like, oh, yeah, I saw that.
If I was a millionaire, I wouldn't pay to watch an AEW pay-per-view.
Oh, no, not those. Not those.
Which ones are you talking about?
It's been back in the day, like ROH and shit.
Bruh, I used to have Honor Club.
Oh, listen to you, because you used to write for the man. I get it.
No, I mean, with
so-
Honor Club, Honor Club was a really good deal. You got like all the pay-per-views for, God, I don't remember what it costed back then, but it was not expensive at all.
Oh, maybe that's why they went out of business.
No, it had nothing to do with a pandemic where they shut down for a full year, right?
Well, I have a question about that in our weekly flips and dives section here. And it's kind of serious, but not like, it's not like you can't talk about ass or something in it, right? You ready?
I'm listening.
Okay. If you had a third of Tony Khan's money, how would you set up the TV show / arena setup?
Where'd you get this fictitious number of a third from?
It could be a half. It's enough money. What I'm saying is he's got enough money to do whatever he wants, and this is what he chooses to do. My point is, I don't know that you can do NWA studio wrestling for real, but I'm so tired of the same old shit that I see on the current product.
Are you finished asking your question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't do studio. That ship sailed. You can't. I actually don't think there's nothing wrong with the like bells and whistles of how AEW does it. Like I have no issues with the buildings, the lighting, like all those things like that. I think is fine, especially by big time TV standards. Now you have to do it like that because everybody's gotten so used to the WWE with all the glitz and glamour that you got to at least get, a third of the way to what they look like. Not the exact same replica types of lights, but at least have that type of big time look to it. I heard Kevin Nash say one time he was getting interviewed. It might have been on like Wade Keller's show or something. He's like, man, and he was talking about Impact and ROH versus like WWE, because this is back when WWE was obviously number one and Impact and ROH were like fighting for the 2 spot, right? And he's like, look, man, at the end of the day, when Monday Night Raw comes on, even if and at the time the ratings weren't, great, they were 3 million a week or whatever. He's like, at the end of the day, when that money shot comes up on Monday Night Raw, when that show opens and you see that big old, set and the lights, and then they pan the crowd and you got a full arena. He's like, ROH and Impact don't have that look. The Impact Zone does not have that look. It looks, no matter how you dress it up, it's going to look cheaper. ROH is in much smaller buildings. They were doing still these, they would do like Supercards of Honor and stuff. Like, they had the Lakefront Arena one time, but that's even a 7,000 seat building. It's not huge. But, they would do buildings like that. But for the most part, you used to watch the ROH product with me weekly. We'd be in buildings sometimes that only hold 1,000 people. So he's like, you can't even compete just from the optics of what WWE looks like. So if you're asking me from that point of view, he's doing that right. There's nothing wrong with how that show looks when it comes on TV and the actual, like, for the most part, shooting of it. Now, I don't watch it weekly. I see clips of Corny going off about people blading right in front of the camera. I don't know, bro. I can't comment towards that.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more the presentation. We're backstage. There's the black rolling crates full of shit in the background all the time. It's like the runways are the same. The space around. There's got to be something different. We need some sort of innovation in how major wrestling companies present their TV show, because it's been the same for over 20 years.
Okay, so the only other thing that I would say, dude, then is I'm like you. I don't like the cookie cutterness of like
the buildings all look the same. The setup is all the same. And you know why that is? because everybody involved in the chain of production from input to output is trying to maximize dollars. But you know what? And I get that. Everybody's got to eat, so we all got to make money. We're trying to draw money here. But it's too homogenized across the board.
You can't. The problem is nowadays you can't make it look as like grungy as it used to look with the way there was only one light above the ring. Like I don't think you could do that anymore. That ship sailed. You just can't. But ROH was on to something once they finally fixed their lighting, because their product used to be like really, really dark. It was really odd. JR used to talk about it all the time. ROH needs to fix their lighting. You gotta like ROH was on to something, because that was the one thing about their show that was different when, you had Impact in the Impact Zone and you had WWE going to every single arena in the country. ROH, because they were going to these smaller buildings, it was almost like the Crockett days where you're like, oh, that's a different look. I didn't know where they were, but, and then when I'd hear Riccaboni or Kevin Kelly back then say it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a cool looking little building. So you'd have all these like different little buildings that looked different on TV. Now, you could tell the production was much less because they just didn't have the money. Well, I guess Sinclair technically did, but they weren't budgeted for the type of money that WWE had. But it looked different. Like, that was the thing about ROH that probably one of the first things that attracted to me in the 2015-ish time frame. And I know ROH was around before that, but that's the one thing. It looked different. And that is what you kind of miss. You definitely miss it with WWE.
Even those pandemic AEW shows where they were outside.
Yeah, I mean, they were in the same building every night. I mean, you had to expect that from at that point.
But that was at least something different.
Oh, but it was just still the same thing every week once they were there.
Sure. But my point is, it's just, man, if they don't tell you what city you're in, you don't have a clue.
Most of the time, that's true. I mean, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. That's the other problem, bro. That ship sailed. Kind of like the same. I mean, kind of like the way the ship sailed with studio wrestling. I know the NWA was doing a lot of that before the pandemic, but I mean, you just can't, look, man.
I know you're ready and willing to submit and grab your ankles for the corporate overlords, but I still think that it's possible to do some things in this world that have an aesthetically pleasing feel to it.
Yeah, you actually just have to tone it down just a little. Like the way AEW shoots it, just tone it down just a little where it doesn't look as so overproduced. Just a little bit.
Well, because WWE is never going to do that. And I'm starting to think nor should they, because they're real good at what they do. And that's part of what makes them who they are. So you wouldn't expect them to change. But AEW has an opportunity to do something different. And their show, look, you can argue about content, but their show looks like thunder.
AEW?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I think their show looks like? It looks like a slightly more scaled down version of WWE. And you know what's funny as I'm thinking about this? All sports are like this now, where it's just glitz and glamour. I mean, that's right, what I'm saying. The genie's out the bottle. Hold on. If
you see like a Super 70s sports, and there's some football game in the 70s, and there's a car parked, like a sedan parked in the background of the play.
Yeah. All
Chip was not airtight in the 70s whatsoever.
No, man. All sport, or the 80s, man. All sports like ratcheted up like big time. It's different. Here's the thing. This is a sport that I guess is kind of related to wrestling, but it's not. UFC. Well, I say UFC. MMA is the sport. UFC is the promotion. Bro, if you watch the way UFC is shot and go look at the way it was shot in the early years in the 90s when it started 30 years ago, it's the same damn thing. Like, it went from, and they didn't have studio UFC matches. My point is, like, you see, it looks grungy, it looks dirty. It's got a different look and feel to it now. It's owned by a big time corporation, publicly traded company. It's got a different look to it. And I watch a lot of UFC. So I mean,
you steal those pay-per-views, I bet.
I don't steal pay-per-views. Jesus Christ. Why do you accuse me of such shit like that?
So even that's the same thing. If we're going to be combating here in combat sports, or even fake or predetermined combat sports, I need to at least be tricked into the idea that it's a dangerous enough environment that somebody might get stabbed.
You know what? I just thought about something. You know what UFC does? You don't watch it, so you wouldn't know this. You know what UFC does?
And it's not before we get there. It's not that I hate the UFC. I just don't have time. I respect it. Those guys are amazing. They're insane. I just don't have the bandwidth to whirl that in, or I would.
What UFC does that's unique, that I believe only started during the pandemic, and they've kept doing it on several weeks out of there. So they basically have like a fight night almost every Saturday night on either ESPN or ESPN Plus. Well, and then about once a month, and I'll have some UFC purists out there correct me, about once a month they have a pay-per-view. On their fight nights, during the pandemic it started, they would have their events at the UFC Apex. I think they started doing it in Fight Island, but then they moved it to the UFC Apex in Vegas. And the UFC Apex, to me, is as close to studio type fighting or wrestling as you would get to a studio. But it's not a studio, because there actually is room for a small audience of just a couple hundred people. Not like 600-700, maybe so. I don't know how many that building holds, because it's a nice size. But my point, what I'm about to say is, I thought about that as you were talking about just changing things up. I don't know if Tony Khan would ever want to do that, because, you know, why do that if you can go out to a building and get a couple thousand people to pay? But that's something that like UFC does that I think is actually really cool. And there's some decent fights that'll be on there in this smaller building. And again, it started because of what was going on with the pandemic. But as I think about it, I don't know if that works for wrestling. But to your point, let me just say, go ahead.
No, you.
I was going to say, to your greater point, you can't do studio wrestling, but there probably something needs to be done to like change up the look of every single building looking the same, because that is a problem. But then me and you just old. Me and you are old. Bro, there's people listening to us right now going, I don't even care about that. I guarantee you, a guy like Jaworski, he's beating it no matter, because he's a moron. He's beating it. He was defending some bull crap from AEW this week. He's beating it from one end of the country to the other, to anything that comes on. I mean, he watches Impact weekly. So there's people like him who just don't even care.
I think you should lay off of him. He's a true lover of the sport.
Well, he needs to lay off of things, all right.
Come on. You don't know that. You can't. How did you prove that?
Guy's a freaking clown.
Yeah, but you don't know that he's constantly doing that to himself.
He's an
active masturbation.
You got to see, every now and then I'll stumble into a war of words between him and Kevin Carter and Chris Sapita on the Facebook group, arguing about, not even, I don't even say Kevin Carter's arguing, but him and Sapita are going back and forth about AEW. And Jaworski's always, his comment is always, it's fine. No, it's not fine. It's terrible.
Well, the reason I thought about all this is because last night I had the opportunity to watch AEW, and I don't get to do that.
Terrible.
Well, and it was the opening match with the plumber in it, and I just once again was reminded how terrible he is.
The plumber.
And what a channel changer his appearance is. And instead of changing the channel, I just sat there and started focusing on the way this was being presented. And then
dude bores me to death.
A little bit later, out walked the Orange Cassidy fella. I was like, dude, are they ever going to have anybody that's worth a shit on this program?
So we're clear, we're talking about the January 28th episode of AEW. Oh, boy. It was the shits.
Yeah. And now they got MJF buddying up with Adam Cole because they're going to be tag team partners in some tournament. And I'm like, isn't that Starrcade 91?
Somebody messaged me saying that they were doing some kind of lottery type thing.
Yeah, fuck that.
Okay. Yeah, man, I can't.
In the spirit of Harper, that's what we think of that. Now, but again, I'm telling you, if AEW, if you derive enjoyment watching that product, then more power to you. That's all I'm saying. We're not calling you a bad person for liking AEW. We can disagree. That's all right. I tried it last night. I watched as much as I could before I got sleepy. Wasn't very long because it was pretty terrible, but that's a different point.
Yeah, I just kind of stared at the TV. I mean, I don't even want to lie and say I didn't watch it. It was on, and I just was like, oh. I tell you what, I like the Young Bucks' tennis shoes they had on.
I didn't see them.
That was kind of cool. See, I said something good about the Young Bucks.
There you
go. Their tennis shoes. Their shoes.
Hey, here's my good thing about the Bucks. They're the third and fourth most channel changing characters in the Federation.
Oh yeah. Cassidy, Moxley, Matt and
I would
Nick,
reverse those.
Or Nick and Matt. Nah, I gotta go Cassidy #1 channel changer. No, Boogie, nothing about you says computer or technology. I just like, what is the kick thing? Why?
When Omega is the fifth most channel changing character in your promotion, you might not want to have your executives go around and harassing the real stars.
I don't even hate him, man, because actually he's a good wrestler. Like he's a really, really good wrestler. I think that's
why he's fifth on my list.
I think his voice is weird, but I just can't hate him the way I hate.
Yeah, I said he's fifth.
He's not even fifth. And I don't like Jericho either, but he's kind of funny. He's so stupid. Jericho is so stupid. Like I can't hate him. He's too stupid to hate him.
The Jericho being a clown on screen may not be an act, but that's okay. I don't care about him off screen.
I don't know. I think he's trolling, bro. I think he's just trolling.
Probably.
He's just like leaning into it at this point. But
that's enough current product. That's enough current product.
I'll start getting angry if we continue this current product bullcrap.
But hey, look, we want to be honest with you, the listeners. We may do a little bit of getting ahead over the summer with vacations coming and pay-per-views and navigating the superstar. And we've been talking about some things we could do in the pre-show to keep it fun, but not necessarily tied to current events, because we may be a couple to 3 weeks ahead and that shit wouldn't make sense. Now, we are firmly aware and have this discussion, if you're thinking about it right now, that Harper's not going to pay attention to any of this shit and want to come in and talk about current events. And we'll have to deal with that as it happens. If a submarine goes down at the Titanic or something like that timely happens, he's going to want to talk about it when he wants to talk about it. We will accommodate him because that's what we do here. But we've been talking about doing some things like the discussion we just had, and maybe even, don't know yet, but resurrecting the top fives.
Yeah, that's your idea. I still got to think that over.
Well, here's the thing we could do. If you're interested in us doing top fives, send them to Mike 504 Saints. And we can try to accommodate some of the top fives on the air.
That's exactly why I didn't want to go that route. But we will see. I'm not promising anything.
Okay, how about this? If you're a patron and you want to suggest a top five.
I don't even know if we did so many of them. The problem is now those top fives will be different.
Right. That's okay too. Remember, when we learn, we're Renaissance men. We learn, we evolve, we change with the times. We change our opinions when presented with new information, and we just like all the broads in the world, we reserve the right to change our mind at any time.
I think we did like a top 5 most overrated one time, and Sting was like in your top 5, may have been your number 1, and that I know for a fact that one ain't gonna change for you.
No.
I'm pretty sure we did that one. I'd have to look, but I don't.
I have no idea, but yeah.
We did a bunch, and that was before the 1985 episode. So, I mean, you're talking 6 years ago now that we did those. I don't remember 6 days ago.
And then have our BTT research team see how much we changed without even knowing we did.
I don't even want to. I wouldn't even believe it. I'd be like, I didn't say that.
I didn't say it, dude. You
Roll
don't
tape.
Hey, man, look, that wasn't me on tape. What it sounds like me, bro. Not with AI, man. That's
not with AI.
Shit. That's some Chat GPT shit. That ain't me.
Well, before we get into this week's episode,
they went into Chat GPT and asked what a world-class wrestling podcaster would say, and then it came out sounding like that. That ain't me.
Dude, Harper's imitation of Lance is astonishing. Everybody loves it, and I feel so bad.
As long as it doesn't get Lance any heat, because you people, I'm serious. Y'all need to lay off.
You people, you see how he talks to y'all?
Well, here's the thing. You're only a you person if you're talking shit to Lance in a mean way. Like you're ribbing on him or having some fun. We're all joshing around and shit and like, putting knuckles in the ribs and like kicking each other in the shin. That's fine. But, there was some foul shit that happened.
My program, Michael Hayes farted on it in a sportatorium in 1984.
Hey, and I just want to make sure this will have already happened well in advance when people, in the past when people listen. I got to know, we're not doing one. Are you ready for the big JYD? Talk about JYD Dark Side that you're recording tomorrow.
Oh, it already happened. It was great. It was fantastic.
Okay. Even if he was the jabroni wrestler that couldn't know any holes.
Yeah, I'll say that before I go into this show. The myth that JYD was like just terrible in the ring, especially in like 1982, 83, that's bullcrap. Like they will make it sound like he's elegante in the ring, and boy, JYD was a lot better in the ring than people give him credit for, especially when he was in shape. And that's all I'll say.
I agree. I thought that was a good episode. You wouldn't let me talk about it, but that's okay. I don't need to.
Well, here's the thing about that show. I'm gonna talk about it on the JYD episode. They mess up timelines all kinds of ways. Every single episode, the timelines are messed up. Like sometimes it's worse than others. In the JYD case, I'll give you one specific example. They said he got fired from Vince and he was working the Indies.
Right?
No, he wasn't.
He went to WCW.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on what you mean by indies. Did he maybe work one show that was an outlaw show? But sure, I guess that could happen. And they sent him. They show footage of like, oh, he left and worked for and then he went to WCW to work for Bill Watts. Hello, that doesn't actually happen. At first, he had like 3 stints in WCW before he then went back when Watts had the book or took control. So it's like they even messed that up. But I guess they just don't get into the intricacies of it and nuance. I don't know. But
nobody cares as much as you do. That's what it is, Mike.
No, a lot of people care because that's all I hear about whenever I tweet about those shows or whenever we talk about it on Patreon. Everybody's like, man, they messed up this time frame. I'm like, yeah, they sure did. The problem is if we concentrated on just that when we talk about Dark Side of the Ring, we'd never get through the actual episode, that the things they do talk about, because we'd be correcting the time frames nonstop. Like their time frames are off. Their time frames are terrible. They are so. The JYD one was glaring, but they don't nail the timeline on things at all. And I think it's 2 things. One is they weren't really watching week by week during that time. They're wrestling fans, but they're also talking to all these old wrestlers who, let's be real, some of them have fried brains and they can't tell you the timelines. I'm just saying.
Hey, I think you're making too much of a deal about time. Time's not important.
Okay. Well, Doc, before we get into January 18th, 1992, before we get into the episode, I did want to say the Clash is coming up, and The only way you can access the Clash review is by going to tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. That is tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. It is how you can access not only this Clash, which I believe is Clash 18 that will be coming up after this airs, and also the previous 17 we did, all of the WCW pay-per-views dating back to 1987. So much there, 400 plus exclusive episodes, the ECW shows, the NWA Power shows, the World Class shows, all available on Patreon. tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. 400 exclusive shows along with the video versions that we do each and every week. All right, Doc, it is time to get into this week's episode of Saturday Night, covering January 18th, 1982. Do you believe? I mean, we're already, 3 weeks into 92. This is nuts.
We can't do anything about it, so we might as well talk about it.
So the intro is a little cut off because we joined the show in progress. We are still in center stage. Remember, this is the second half of the card that started last week in center stage. I did not look up the reason that the front of the episode was cut off or how much was cut off. I suppose I could look. We know it's not Braves baseball because it's only in January here. I suppose the Hawks could have been playing, but who knows? I didn't look. One of my Atlanta TBS experts will get on that. Rick Rude is battling some gentleman wrestler in the ring. I have no clue who this guy is because we joined it in progress. Lots of Sting chants. We get some dick dancing. The dogs are about to start barking over here. Rude hits the Rude Awakening and gets the win. Doc, any thoughts on this rather quick matchup? It doesn't go long. I mean, we're like a minute in before we go to a promo.
Yeah, this guy looked like, I don't know, some kind of great value Tim Horner or something.
I thought he was like a great value Mulkey at first too.
Mulkey with more bulky, or
thicker,
or maybe like a real low rent homeless person's Ron Garvin.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. You see Rude when he hit the Rude Awakening?
No, we didn't, because we missed a bunch of shit there because we missed the opening bell, we missed the finisher.
Well, when he hits the Rude Awakening, he hits it, and then they cut away to Paul Lee. I'm like, why are you cutting away to Paul Lee? He's about to pin this dude.
Right, we missed the pin and we missed the opening bell. Great job, WCW, everyone.
Yeah, so be it. Any other thoughts on the match? So it was.
What is that? What does the side of his tights say?
I don't know.
Why don't you read his butt?
I don't want to read his butt. I can't see it. It's not clear enough. This isn't exactly 1080p.
No, it's not.
I think it says Rick Rude.
Okay, I didn't know. I was just asking.
I can't tell.
Hey, but you gotta get high. Come on, calm down.
All right, when we go to commercial, we see a clip of Cactus and Abdullah kind of fighting it out. And well, we're going to go now to Cactus and Abdullah again. They have a promo to cut. I guess they've patched things up. Let's see what they got to say.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to World Championship Wrestling. In just a few moments, we're going to go back to the ring to see Cactus Jack and Abdullah the Butcher take on Brad Armstrong and the Z-Man. Remember last week, Cactus and Abdullah were fighting each other. They made these pre-recorded comments that we'll listen to now, and then we'll see the top 10.
Surprise, surprise. Look who's back together. Did you really think a little squabble could keep us apart? Well, you've been watching soap operas too long. This is no story, this is real life, and the fact of it is, in real life, brothers sometimes fight. Best friends sometimes have their differences, but they can make it up like we did. We have too much in common to throw it away on a little bit of a family feud. Too much in common. Pain! We have pain in common and we're not through yet distributing it in liberal doses. Don't you understand? Abdullah the Butcher and I are not friends. We're not family. We're soulmates. So don't you write us off. Don't you write us off, because there's a lot more pain left to go. We're like two peas in a pod, two nuts in a shell. Ah! Bang, bang!
Any thoughts on that, Doc?
I thought that was great. They're so crazy, they're fighting. And just, we can't change who we are. I'm immediately torn off by the misspelling.
No, keep going. Just keep talking about the promo.
Okay.
Don't get sidetracked by that. We talked about that last week.
I just can't. Oh, it throws. Well, there's another one. Jesus Christ.
Can we talk about the promo? He's commenting on the top 10, the same shit last week.
I thought he was good. I thought, it's like, man, yeah, we're messed up, but we're family. We're bonded by pain. We're liberal doses. That means a large amount. It's not political, all you people out there. I feel like I need to say that.
Yeah, I mean, you do. Everybody's ready to get work to shoot these days. You remember last week they were brawling. So Cactus says they're back together. And he says something actually is very true, which is, brothers and best friends, they kind of fight and have their differences, especially brothers. Like, if you got a sibling, I don't have any. But man, I was around enough guys who fought with their brothers all the time. Like all the time, to the point where I had to break up several brawls between brothers growing up. I'm like, come on, man, y'all brothers, what are y'all doing? So as crazy as Cactus and Abdullah are, it's kind of true. And then the other part is Abdullah speaking what JR says later is what language did he say he was speaking? Sudanese.
It has to be Sudanese. He's the madman from Sudan.
JRCD speaking Sudanese. Oh,
Sudan what?
This is 1992 if there ever was a time. All right, let's keep moving. That made me laugh. We go to the WCW top 10 and yeah, lots of names are misspelled. Ron Simmons is not in the top 10 still. Pittsburgh is spelled wrong. Truth or Consequences, New Mexico is spelled wrong. Lots of mistakes, but there's that. And then we go to the next match, which is Tom Zink, the Z-Man, Chris Zonch's favorite wrestler, and Brad Armstrong. So he's got a new tag team partner versus Cactus Jack and Abdullah. So yeah, Z-Man has a new partner. He's got Brad now. This match isn't getting started in the ring though, as the crazy guys are coming in, Cactus and Abdullah. Brad and Z-Man start fighting him on the outside. It's a brawl. I mean, it's a brawl from the start. And Cactus takes a bump over one of the barricades. Abdullah is literally monkey flipped by Brad. It's just a brawl on the outside. Doc, any thoughts on this? That looks like Klondike Bill right there.
I was just listening to one of those tapes that they put out with JR's old radio show in the 90s. And this kid called in and goes, so who was Arachnaman? Because he looks like Brad Armstrong. There's like, well, I haven't seen Arachnaman in around a while, and he never took off his mask. But there are some striking similarities.
Protect kayfabe at all costs, even if it's Arachnaman.
Yeah. Well,
Christ.
So, man, Brad, it's good to see him, but he's going to eat a pin here. What do you think?
Nope.
What is Brad's next gimmick?
Nobody got misused more in a promotion than him. I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff. Like, they put Jack Victory in a few different things. And he was like in that flight suit at one point, Secret Service. He was one of the Russian assassins. What else did he do? He had like 4 he was the Royal Family. He had like 4 gimmicks inside of like a year and a half. But Brad, I don't know, man. Candyman, Arachnaman.
Well, and last week, Zink and Pillman were together.
Yeah,
that's
what I was
together.
saying. Yeah, they were back together. Now he's out there with Brad. I don't get it. It's like they were like, well, we're paying you, Brad. Why don't you go out there and wrestle with Tom?
Well, I didn't bring my Arachnaman get up. That's all right. That shit ain't over anyway.
Well, nah, I think at this point they were done. I think Arachnaman's done.
Oh, okay.
I'll eat my words. Watch. I think Arachnaman.
Yeah, you will.
Right now. Yeah, I could be wrong.
Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts before we go to the finish of this thing?
Yeah, I want to see the finish here. I want your opinion on something that's about to happen.
All right. So Brad is laying into Abdullah, but Cactus grabs Brad from behind. Brad staggers to Abdullah, and Abdullah hits Brad with a throat thrust that he kind of does. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like almost like a chop to the throat, which looks really good. And of course, Brad sells the shit out of it. And then Abdullah drops one of his big flappy titties on Brad with the elbow. What? And Abdullah and Cactus win when Brad eats the pin. What did you want to ask me?
That flop right there, it seems like he's taken away from the pin. I don't like it.
You mean Z-Man diving over the top rope on the Cactus?
That, yes. I didn't like that.
Well, I don't know, because then Cactus sends him into the barricade head first, and Z-Man's now...
That was better.
Yeah, that looked good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole point of this match was get over Cactus and Abdullah, and after they jump Z-Man, Cactus and Abdullah are going to start fighting again, and here we go. They're brawling again, and Abdullah hits Cactus with multiple chair shots to the head, and they just go at it. And the fans are going nuts. So I guess it's good.
I like it because they're the only two guys that can carry out this level of credible, out-of-control violence on this TV show and get away with it.
Meanwhile, Brad and Z-Man are gone.
They're back counting their money from the pay window, bruh.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, Cactus and Abdullah are going to brawl for a little while before we go to commercial. And that was that. Multiple chairs. They're fighting. 4 referees trying to pull them apart. Doesn't happen. From there, we go to
Notice they spell everything right on the part where they're trying to get some money, though.
You mean for the WCW magazine clip?
Yeah.
From there, we go to the WCW magazine with Eric Bischoff. And Bischoff repeats, Lex Luger is working out and laying low. And yeah, he's going to make a statement soon. So let me go to that.
Can I translate that? The WCW and Lex Luger have come to a contract negotiation impasse, and we're starting to think that Lex Luger may be on his way to the WBF.
Let's go to Harley Race, who he's got something to say about Luger.
Next Tuesday on the Clash of Champions, the world's heavyweight champion is going to tell to the world who his next victim is going to be. Hear me right when I tell you this. Next Tuesday, Clash of Champions, Lex Luger is going to name the victim. And when he gets down to it in the ring, buddy, down to it like only he's capable of doing, you people know that I'm telling you the truth. Lex Luger, the man of the 90s. Lex Luger, world's heavyweight champion, just came back from defending his belt in Tokyo, Japan. The greatest athlete on the face of God's green earth is going to walk out here and tell you who his next victim is going to be on the Clash of Champions next Tuesday.
All right, so it's a credible update in that Lex is now going to tell you who his next victim is going to be. My biggest problem is, weren't we told at Starrcade that the winner of Battle Bowl was going to get a world title shot?
Sure.
Everything was airtight, brother. Your thoughts on this, Doc?
Did you hear Harley say "you people"?
Yeah, a lot of people used to say that back in the day. Doesn't make it right.
Oh, okay.
You should know that.
I should, but I don't.
Continue.
Well, we're going to hear from the champ, and he's going to change the steps.
Speaking of champions, let's continue. We got to hear something from Eric Bischoff here, and then there's going to be a promo by Paulie, Bobby, and Arn.
Well, there certainly seems to be more to this than Luger and Race are willing to divulge at this time. We will certainly attempt to update you on this situation in upcoming days. Meanwhile, in other championship news, Arn Anderson and beautiful Bobby Eaton defeated Dustin Rhodes and Ricky Steamboat to win the WCW World Tag Team titles this week. The new champions who represent the Dangerous Alliance made this statement a few hours after their controversial victory.
First was the World's Television Championship, then the United States Heavyweight Championship, and now, like I have promised you, the World Tag Team Championship has fallen into the hands of the Dangerous Alliance as we slowly but surely move towards total domination here in World Championship Wrestling. My only question this week to you is this. Is anybody truly surprised? Arn Anderson and beautiful Bobby have both been declared the greatest tag team wrestler of all time. Equally, they share that honor. Together, they are the greatest tag team unit that has ever wrestled in front of any audience on the face of this planet. The left hand of Anderson, the right hand of Eaton, together will write the most brutal chapter in the history of tag team wrestling, and they'll write that chapter in their opponent's blood.
I wished we could cut these in half, because on a match like we had with you, there were no losers, but there can only be two champions. Don't misconstrue our admiration for your ability, Steamboat and Rhodes. Don't misconstrue that with our ability and need to excel in this sport. There can only be two champions. You look at them, so whether it's Wyndham, Simmons, the Signers, it doesn't matter. These belong to us now.
We certainly cannot discount the athletic ability of Anderson and Eaton. However, it is somewhat alarming that Paul E. Dangerously and the Dangerous Alliance now are in control of the United States Heavyweight title and the World Television title and now the World Tag Team Championships. The Dangerous Alliance also has the opportunity to eliminate two of their biggest rivals this Tuesday night at the Clash of Champions when Rude and Austin collide with Sting and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. The Stinger and the Dragon must approach this bout very cautiously because it's obvious that Dangerously and company will stop at nothing to eliminate two of WCW's most popular competitors.
All right. So Arn and Bobby win the titles. That actually happened about 10 days after this taping occurred. So January 16th, they won those titles in Jacksonville, for anybody out there keeping track. I'll remind you of that when we get to later on in the show and a tag team match that we have. Doc, I loved Arn here. Don't misconstrue our admiration for your ability, Steamboat and Rhodes, for our ability and need to excel in this sport. These belong to us now. Jesus.
And dude, he's wearing the watch and the necklace and just the way he lifted his eyebrows and his eyes at the end of it. That's Siri, what does a wrestler look like?
Yeah. Siri, what does a promo sound like? That was great.
Yeah.
So they're doing one more. We got one more thing to cover in the WCW magazine segment with Bischoff. Bischoff is going to throw to the Young Pistols now, who, listen to Tracy. We don't give a hill of beans about these fans. Here it is.
Now let's turn our attention to the Young Pistols. The U.S. Tag Team Champions, Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers, have made it very clear that they want to wrestle the Steiner brothers. Perhaps the Pistols feel that to obtain the respect they feel they deserve, they must defeat Rick and Scott, who are certainly considered one of WCW's greatest all-time duos. Here are their comments.
You know, to get respect in this sport, you go to the bully. When you're out on that schoolyard, you don't beat up some young punks. You beat up the baddest one. And Steiners, you're the baddest one in WCW. You're the former United States Tag Team Champions, former World Tag Team Champions. You beat everybody there is to beat, but you've never beat the Young Pistols. You've never faced a team that can beat you in as many ways as we can. You've never faced a duo that works together as well as the Young Pistols. And the one big difference between you and us is that you care about all those fans out there, and we don't don't give a hill of beans about them. We'll do whatever it takes to hold on to our titles, to advance to the World Tag Team titles.
That's right, Steiner Brothers. We've been all around the world, and we know you have too. We know you've had all the belts. You've held the Japan belt, the nationwide United States, anywhere. Well, it don't matter no more, because you got two young studs in town, two in-shape studs, if you know what I'm talking about. And to ride us around, you're going to have to be ready all night long, because we're coming with both barrels loaded, and we're going to ride you around like a couple of rodeo clowns, boys.
We look forward to this tag team contest, and we will keep you informed.
Just think of Tracy there, Doc.
I thought Tracy was good. A hill of beans, bro. That's a lot of beans. Now, I like Steve Armstrong. When he does his head to the side at the end, he's doing Stone Cold. Look at him. Run that back the last 10 seconds of Steve. He looks like Stone Cold there. Not Stone Cold bald-headed, but he looks like Steve Austin.
He does.
You put your Bible, your 316.
Yeah.
Bruh.
I know people will hear that and go, what is he talking about? But no, if you really watch him, he's doing that thing where when Austin would cut his promo where he kind of like wobbles his head back and forth, and Steve does that right there. I know, like, I can already hear people, what is Doc talking about? Nah, Doc actually is on to something with that.
I picked that up that he did that in Smokey, but I mean, I think they were both good there, and I will not understand why we had to treat these guys like chumps.
Well, we had to make them from Wyoming because being from the South was too Southern, even though we shoot our program in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. Let's keep moving.
Yeah.
Bischoff closes it out. He reminds us that the Clash is coming up on this Tuesday, so don't miss it. And again, we will review it in a few days on Patreon at tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. I usually drop the Clashes the day after, so like a Friday evening, the day after.
Oh, that's nice. You can sit
Thursday
and
night
drink
show.
your moonshine out there and listen to us.
Okay. Next matchup, Terry Taylor, versus Joey Maggs. JR, once again, I need to get to a timestamp because I had somebody ask me about this several weeks ago. Here, give this a listen.
What I had heard regarding the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. And I know that the NWA Board of Directors have been meeting in recent days, and we hope to have a major announcement regarding the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA, and I hope to have that information gathered by this Tuesday at the Clash of Champions.
All right, so there you go. Something to look forward to at the Clash of Champions. Maybe we'll get some kind of update and JR will stop teasing us because he keeps teasing us. It's like the third time he's mentioned that, so just wanted to point that out. As far as this match goes, Taylor and Maggs, Taylor makes quick work of Maggs, and he's going to win with a 5-arm. Doc, you got anything from this one?
Nothing.
It's pretty quick. I say quick. It's like it's like a minute, 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes or so. But I will say one thing. Since laying down some pipe on Mrs. York and ditching her, he's been pretty damn dominant in the ring.
Yeah, but he's kind of boring me now. I'm turning on him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I don't like his promo he's about to cut either.
What's wrong with the promo?
I just didn't think it did anything.
Well, I'm going to play it. I'll let people be.
Great, thanks. That's
For the tailor-made man, it looks like, as far as you're concerned, that 1992 will be the year of the tailor-made man.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, what exactly is a tailor-made man? Well, it's somebody who sure doesn't need any of these idiots out here and nobody out there to be a success. I've done it by myself. I let that computer almost ruin my career. So now I'm going to do it myself. I'm on my way to the top. And I'm telling everybody right now, as the weeks progress, even these stupid people might learn what it's like to be the tailor-made man. They won't like it. It's too bad. There's nothing anybody can do about it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, comments from the tailor-made man. And we've got...
I mean, I like it. He's
not caring what the fans think makes you a heel. What makes you tailor-made? Yeah, you got me. You feel it too. You're like, damn, he's right. I don't know what to say.
No, Taylor
but I
made
want to
like
fight with him because that's what we're supposed to do on this show. But I just told you the truth.
he's a heel. Does it have to make sense?
He's a heel.
Jesus
A little bit
Christ.
would help.
No, I disagree on this one.
Okay.
He's the tailor-made man. It is what it is.
Oh, that's great.
All right. Well, let's continue. We see an ad for Super Brawl, and then after that, we go to Van Hammer versus Chuck Coates. And real quick, Doc, Chuck Coates frequently comments on the Facebook page for the show whenever I'm posting clips and pictures. So I don't know if Chuck listens to this, but if he does, I want to tell him thank you for listening to the show.
Thank you, Chuck. Now, I have a point here that I want to point out as we're watching this on the video version. And I swear to God, to Jesus above, praise be to Allah, that we did not talk about what you just said. My note, word for word, right here says, I feel like Coates really made Van Hammer look decent in this match. That was my only note from this match, is I picked up on Chuck Coates' work in this match. And I had no idea you were about to say that.
I mean, he did. He's a quality enhancement talent. He's in there with a guy who, in JR's words, too much too soon, and he needed to fine-tune that gimmick, not on national TV every week.
Look at that clothesline. He threw a good missed clothesline there.
Yeah, he takes a nice bump on the drop kick. Takes the slam well.
And you know he's taking his life in his hands being in here with this guy who's likely to kill him.
Yeah.
Looking like Dan Spivey right there.
I'm not going to fast forward through this because I think people just think we just hate this dude and we shouldn't, but this guy.
The term drizzling shits was created. Like, I was afraid he was going to tip him on back there.
Looks like $1 million. Wrestles like a half a penny. I don't know how else to say it.
If Chuck Coates looked like Van Hammer, things would have been better for everybody.
Chuck is selling his ass off for this guy.
I told you.
I mean, the backdrop, and then
that was my note, and I was like, he's not going to believe me now that I got to say this.
Look when Van Hammer gives him the leg drop. Watch Coates. Watch the way he sells it. He does like a backwards worm, except one from his back, not his stomach. We get the we will rock you stomp that Van Hammer loved to do. Oh my God.
That's nice.
Slingshot suplex. Van Hammer wins. Was my comment.
It's not good. It's not good. No.
Yeah.
All we can hope for is the brutality to be unleashed this Tuesday night at the Clash of Champions.
That's right. Well, after this, we go to Jim Ross, and he talks about PN News and Mr. Hughes. He's going to throw to a clip of Hughes and News from several weeks back, and he says that we're going to have a grudge match now of what we saw go on back then. Now, what's weird is this is January 18th of 92. That kind of angle that they shot with News and his eye, quote unquote, being damaged with Hughes, that feels like it was like 6 weeks ago. But I guess it was the show right before the Starrcade. So you're still talking about almost a month ago now that this happened, right?
Yeah.
I guess just the way it ends up airing, because you had Starrcade, and then what was weird though, see, they say 3 weeks ago. So it was 3 weeks ago on Saturday night. It feels like longer than that because we had so many shows in between them with Starrcade. But man, 3 weeks is a long time for me to care about whatever happened to PN News. Like, if it was so important, we probably should have saw it the week after and not 3 weeks later. But
it could be 5 minutes or 5 years. I don't give a shit.
Okay, well, I don't know. Mr. Hughes has really grown on me during this era. He's
picked his stock has risen since the draft combine. I mean, as a result of rewatching this, I agree.
Yeah, and he wasn't bad when he was doing the big cat thing. It just the gimmick wasn't working. But him with the suit on and the glasses, suspenders, I love it. It's perfect. So we go to the match. It is Hughes versus PN News. News raps before the match. News says he doesn't care if he wins or loses, but he gonna do to Hughes what Hughes did to him. So let's get to it.
What?
That's what he said. Yeah. Doc, your thoughts on News shaking his junk and getting his groove on here?
Well, have we ever considered the fact that we're somewhat lucky that WCW bills PN News from Motown and not straight from the hood? Because that's something they would have done.
I think they thought Motown was the hood.
That's fair. That's probably true.
Because if you remember in one of News's first promos, he says to Dusty on the Bull of the Woods, or the bull drops in. Remember that?
Yeah,
News says,
these two little
you know, when you're talking about Motown, you're talking about the hood.
Okay.
He said that statement, but go ahead.
Okay. PN News is so fat he can't really fire up here.
He does look awkward, but I like him. He's over, man. They laugh at him. They have fun with this guy.
That's you playing the race card, though, I think, right there. If he was a big white tubby piece of shit, you would be putting boots to him.
I still laugh at the magazine where it's him and Johnny B. Bad, the black dudes in the magazine. Johnny B. Bad was on BET talking about the plight of the black wrestler.
That's not classy.
If only
Hank Aaron would have seen it.
Yeah, I would, dude. If that tape ever surfaces, I'm dying to see it. This man was on BET.
Get Johnny B. Bad on WWE's Most Wanted Treasures.
Oh my God. All right, Doc, let's go to this match. What do you have from these two big bulls going at it? These two big dudes, man.
The difference, they're big, but the difference is that Hughes moves so effortlessly compared to News that he makes News look bad as a result.
Mr. Hughes is a great bumping big man.
He's an athlete.
Dude, he can move, and nobody ever talks about him.
He's light on his feet for a man of that size.
He sure is. He can get around that ring. I mean, if you look at him, I don't know how much more or less he weighs. Well, he weighs less than News. But you look at News, and News isn't fluid in his movements. Mr. Hughes is smooth. He bumps smooth. Everything he does looks great. I mean, he made News look great in this match.
And he didn't even fall asleep.
He didn't even fall asleep. All right, Doc. Any thoughts before we go into the finish of this one?
Wasn't a huge fan of the finish, but these guys worked hard.
So News slams Hughes. Then News hits Hughes with a belly-to-belly.
This sounds like a fucking Dr. Seuss rhyme.
It does. It really does as I'm going through it. News hits the broken record. But Vader comes out and pulls News off of Hughes. And it does sound like a Dr. Seuss rhyme. And Vader pulls...
Who snooze Hughes
News,
with views of
Hold
News.
on, bro. Look what Vader tries to pull News through the bottom rope. He's too fat. He can't get him through. He can't get him through. He can't get him through the bottom rope. And he gets on the apron and they start slugging it out. I don't know what the ref's doing because he sees all this shit. Like the ref sees all this interference and he doesn't
That's not
ring
the
the
reason
bell.
I dislike this.
That's the reason, or it's not the reason?
That's not the reason.
Okay, what is the reason?
We got a mysterious big bastard that we're trying to do something with, And his presence on the show was to interfere against PN News and then be brought to the level of having to trade punches with the guy. I think that you need to keep Vader a little bit more untouched than that.
No, okay. I mean, I can live with that.
I'm right. I'm there. I'm totes right.
But they did bring out the Steiners to level it back up.
Yeah, that was okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then these teams are going to go at it at the Clash, so I guess that's why they did it too.
I'm interested in that.
So there's your answer as to why they brought Vader out there.
I get it.
And you got to remember too, Hughes is being managed by Harley. Harley's also with Vader. So, I mean, you got tie-ins there, even though you're saying you're feeling like they brought Vader down a level.
But I didn't care for it.
All right. The next match is Larry the Cruncher Zbyszko versus Ron Simmons. It's so funny. Larry the Cruncher Zbyszko.
That's
Doc,
stupid, but I had a feeling that when Larry saw Ron round that corner out that stupid hallway, he was like, man, it's time to retire.
It's time to wrap this shit up.
I felt like this was Larry's moment, like Ole getting picked up by the Steiners in that match when he got lifted off his feet. Larry was like, this is a young man's game.
Dude, Ron Simmons is a big son of a gun, too.
He's a big bastard. And recently on Arn's podcast, he got asked the Mount Rushmore of tough fellas. And he said, Haku, Brock, Ron Simmons, and before the car wreck, probably Dick Slater.
Ron's just intimidating. Like, when you stand next to him, bro, he's not like 6'8" or something like that, but he's just tall enough at like that 6'3" range or whatever he's in, and he's big, wide shoulders, and he's just a big look. He's a man. You look at him, and you're like, that dude can fuck somebody up.
Well, and it's about presence too. He's not. Yeah. I don't get it that he's a mean guy, but I would rather fight Butch Reed than him. And they were both, I don't know what it is, but my spidey sense for survival says that's not the guy I want to pick with. Now, they're all bigger than me, and I get this. But what I'm saying is Braun Strowman's bigger than Ron Simmons, but I ain't fighting Ron Simmons.
Yeah, you ain't fighting any of them, but yeah. He's, like you said, he's got a presence.
The other thing that popped out for this is a good match. I mean, Larry does the Chuck Coates roll and bumps all over for Ron, makes him look like $1 million like he's supposed to. I really like Medusa in this role. She's credible as a female. She's tough. She doesn't take a step back. She's willing to get in there. At one point, she hits Ron. It's just she's really good in that role.
She fits it well.
She does.
I guess she's a valet, but I don't know. She fits the role. I love me some Medusa. 100%. All right. Any other thoughts as I'm working towards what we see in the finish, Doc?
No.
All right. So Ron fires up on Larry the Cruncher. He hits Larry with like 2 flying shoulder blocks. Larry bumps his ass off. I mean, they look great. He ends up missing a third one. Larry then goes for a brain buster when Ron misses and goes into the corner, but Simmons kind of blocks it and inside cradles Larry Zbyszko, and Ron wins by pin. After the match, though, Larry keeps his heat. He hits Simmons with the brain buster. He gets the heat back, and I thought that was kind of a good way to do it. Like, to me, I thought that was really good. Like, you give Ron the win, but then Larry does his brain buster, and that's that. So, your thoughts?
I agree. I thought the right guy, I thought Simmons needed to win, but Zbyszko keeps the Dangerous Alliance looking dangerous and allianced.
There you go.
There you
totally
go.
Agree.
Yep.
All right, so we go to commercial and then we come back and we're going to go over the main event for this week's show, which is Steve. What are you laughing at?
Bobby.
Tell the people what Bobby Eaton does. He's coming down the hallway.
He's coming down that dumbass hallway and he picks out a picture of Sting and is laughing at it as he comes through.
Look at Bobby's face.
Yeah, I'm going to whoop this fella's ass.
And
on,
Paul rips it up. Let's go to the ring. All right, so they do a tag match for the main event. Is Steve Austin and Bobby Eaton versus Sting and Bagwell. But remember, earlier in the show, it was announced that Eaton and Arn had won the world tag titles from Steamboat and Dustin. So we got to remember here, this show we're reviewing was taped 10 days before Eaton and Arn won the titles on January 16th in Jacksonville. So this is being taped before Eaton and Arn are tag champs, which I know you're like, the continuity, but this is kind of what happened in the day and age when everything wasn't live.
And I'm like, why aren't the tag champs out here? I mean, I'm not complaining too much. I'll take it, you know. It's Saturday night, and this is a hell of a match.
At the time of the taping, Eaton wasn't a champ yet, and that's why he's out there with Austin instead of Arn.
And I got to say, they're giving Bagwell a lot of shine here. I'm not against it. I'm just saying he's getting a prompt. Look at that back. He's got a big-ass back. Bagwell,
okay.
That is.
You want to shave it?
Only if I can get his balls, too.
You popped Harper last week. When we were talking about the relief thing.
Yeah.
What did you say? What did you say?
These are the balls you're looking for.
He laughed for a long time.
He did.
Oh man! All right, let's
even
get back
superstars.
To this.
Even superstars need to laugh.
He was popping. These are the balls you're looking for. All right, Austin and Eaton versus Sting and Bagwell. Sting is going to take the heat in this thing as Austin and Eaton really work him over. But to your point, Bagwell is getting a lot of shine here. Look at last week.
Bagwell is not. Bagwell isn't Luthez here, but he's not Van Hammer either.
Sure ain't.
And that's the problem is that it's not that you're bringing in green talent. You're bringing in green talent that doesn't really have they can't do anything. Bagwell gets covered here. Well, because he's in there against two guys that can work. He's got a big name on his side, and I'm going to say something about that in a minute. And he's capable. He's not, again, he's not Luthez, but he's capable out there.
Okay. Two big differences between Bagwell and Van Hammer when you're talking about the spot they put Bagwell in here. Bagwell, for what it's worth, when you watch him as a wrestler, although young right here, sure, he might not be great and all the way polished like he needs to be, but he at least can do the moves and play the part, although he's not polished and needs work because he's so young.
But they cover that he's working with Mike Graham and he's learning new skills, and there's a way through that.
Meanwhile, with Van Hammer, he's out there with enhancement talents or people that actually not only out there with enhancement talents, he clearly not only can't work like Bagwell at this stage, but the gimmick is ridiculous and absurd. So he's got the double whammy going for him, in which, again, go back to what JR said, the guy needed to be off of national TV, fine-tuning that gimmick in whatever he's trying to do in the ring.
Right.
So, yes, Bagwell's in a hell of a spot here, and he's also in there with a bunch of pros. Now, as we say that, Sting ain't no 10-year veteran at this point.
He's not, but I'm going to tell you this. I thought Sting was really good in this match, and it continues my premise that Sting is not terrible in the ring by a long shot. He's good in the ring when he has the right dance partners. And boy, right here, he's got the right dance partners. And I don't mind. I don't mind him screaming for the crowd here. That's an awesome thing for him to do, and the crowd responds and the crowd's into it. It's when he does it, when he does it at the end of a promo, like he just spit forth, hard times or spilled more liquor, and he hits the woo like he's RVD pose, that I have a problem with the big Sting yell.
The trip part
I
about
thought Sting was really good in this match, and he has to be to cover up Bagwell. And again, Bagwell's not bad, but we're trying to, there's a point we're trying to achieve here, and it takes some work. You know what I'm saying?
I do. The funny part about you're talking about Sting and the guys he's in here with, he's been in the business longer than Austin at this point.
That's what
Which is interesting because Austin looks like he's, not that Sting looks bad, but dude, Austin looks like a 10-year pro.
He got himself. Boom.
What's that?
See, Sting was really good there. Giving the two elbows from the corner to the guys running in on him. That was good stuff. Sting does a good job here.
Yeah, Sting's kicking Austin, shoots Austin into the corner.
And we can make the toys, and he can have the matches. But if we're going to put the belt on him and ask him to talk, I'm going to have to pull the emergency brake on that.
You know what's funny? If they'd allowed Bobby Eaton to talk all the time, you'd probably say the same thing about him.
Maybe, but they didn't.
They knew what they were doing.
There you go.
They knew, there's a reason you heard Bobby Eaton talk 5 times in his career.
Can I get 51-52?
I actually think I have that. So hold on. Because I have that same timestamp.
Okay.
All right, we're about to get to it. Sting just flies over the top rope. Just watch it here. He goes. I was holy shit. Watch. Boy, he's a pro. Let me tell you something. Watch how he hooks his arm on it so that when he goes over, there's no chance he's going to really hurt anything. See how he got that arm hooked on the rope as he flipped over? That was nice.
And I thought the two guys helped, first of all, it was visually awesome because it makes Eaton look smart and all 3 guys working together there.
Yes.
Because that could be dangerous for a couple or 3 or somebody could get hurt. And they all 3 pulled. That's a great shot right there. Those 3 guys all pulled it off, and they had to be correct with it. Or, again, somebody who's playing a prominent role in the promotion could get pretty messed up.
So he hooks his left arm around the top rope, and then as he's going over, he grabs the rope with both hands. And he did it perfect because that stopped him from literally killing himself. But it looked devastating the way he goes over, because the way he flies over. And you're right, all the guys were working together there for it. Yeah, this Sting worked his tail off. Sting looks great in this match.
He was good here. Where do we call it?
Down the middle.
There you go.
Always down the middle. Any other timestamps?
Always. No, I'm ready to hit the finish and then hit the tagline.
Well, the thing about this match that makes it so good is Sting. You might think, well, Bagwell is going to be the young guy. He's going to take the heat. But actually, it's Sting who takes the heat in this match. So Sting finally fires back, and he fires up, and he makes the hot tag to Bagwell. And Bagwell comes in and is doing his thing. Paul Lee, though, trips Bagwell as Bagwell is backing up into the ropes. And Sting sees it and attacks Paul Lee, which is a great reaction. The problem is, to me, it made Sting look kind of dumb because now Bagwell gets hit with a stun gun by Austin, and Austin pins Bagwell. You know what? I say it made him look dumb, but maybe it didn't. He's just trying to do his job. I just hate when they kind of make when they make baby faces get distracted, and they shouldn't. That's the only reason why I said that.
You could distract them, that's fine, but it needs to be believables.
It can't be a situation where it distracts them and it's clear as day it's going to cost their team the match. I think that's the problem I had with it. So anyway.
Paul. Anytime Paul has physicalities is funny.
Yeah, when Sting had him like in that headlock
to this day.
Sleeper, he just panics. Look at him. Look at it. Look at it. He's flailing like a 5-year-old on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that I rewatch it, Sting's not really distracted. He's just fighting off 2 people. He can't help himself. And then the Dangerous Alliance comes out, so Sting is out there battling them, and they're holding him back. He can't even get in the ring to save Bagwell as Bagwell's pinned by Austin. After the match, The Dangerous Alliance again is out there. Paulie takes his belt off, and he's about to start laying it into Bagwell and his back. Finally, Dustin hits the ring. Ron Simmons, Ricky Steamboat hit the ring to chase off the Dangerous Alliance. And we're out of time as we go off air, headed towards the Clash of the Champions. Paul is hilarious with the belt as he hits Bagwell's hydrated back. This was good. You know what? As I'm rewatching it, I don't think they made Sting look bad. Now that I'm seeing a second.
No,
or
I
third
don't think
time.
so. I didn't take that away. I didn't take that away.
Any thoughts before we rate it and hand out some Rolexes? Yeah, it's good.
The thing is, we got a lot of top baby faces that I like. We got a lot of top heels that I like, and we need to start. Like we're heating it up. Okay.
We got a lot of talent in this promotion, dude.
Oh my God.
I mean, just look. Think about it real quick.
Steiners, Simmons, Rhodes, Wyndham, Steamboat, Austin, Rude, Arn, Eaton. Didn't even say Luger or Sting.
In this one segment, all right?
Yeah, there's like, what, 9?
You got the whole Dangerous Alliance, which we know who's there. In the match, we had Austin, Eaton, Bagwell, and Sting. 4 quality guys, all at different stages. Again, the whole Dangerous Alliance comes out. You got Paul. You then got Steamboat, Simmons, and Dustin Rhodes who hit the ring. I mean, it's like damn near a who's who of...
Right.
If I told you right today, hey, you're going to get Steve Austin, Bobby Eaton, Sting, Paul Heyman, Bagwell, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, Rick Rude, Dustin Rhodes, Ron Simmons, and Ricky Steamboat to start your promotion.
Cavalcade of stars.
You're going to get all those guys to start your promotion. And like you said, we didn't even name the champion Lex Luger.
Hey, Mike, we should get a ring and start a Fed. Bro, that's stupid. What if we could get these guys in 1992's physical prime to join us? You'd all of a sudden change your mind about getting that ring, wouldn't you?
They got so much talent. We didn't even name Vader. We didn't even name Vader.
Right. Or Cactus.
Cactus, Vader. You know, floppy titties, Abdullah.
Come on.
I know. But on that particular note, before we get out of here, we need to hand out the Toot Toot Award since Ric Flair is gone, but Arn is here, and rate this thing. Doc, remember? Well, go ahead and rate it first, and then we'll talk about the Toot Toot.
55 minutes, big matches, big names. I'm going to give it an A.
I'm right there with you. I'm giving it an A, for sure.
92 is off to a good start, in my opinion.
It is. We need to give out the Toot Toot Award. Remember, before we do it, you gotta sign up on Patreon to get access to our Clash review. tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. Not only this Clash, which is the 18th one, but all 17 before it, along with all of the WCW pay-per-views dating back to 1987, ECW shows, NWA Power shows, the World Clash shows as well. Only available on Patreon. tinyurl.com.
Yeah, we really stretch out on these. We really stretch out on these clashes. What we can't tell you is whether or not Hardbody Harper will be here, because we're going to record on a Tuesday. That's July the 4th. And as of this date, he still doesn't know if he has to work.
I think he knows. He just gets selective responsing on his damn gimmick.
We asked him 2 days ago, almost 48 hours ago, to let us know 24 hours ago whether or not he was working, so that we could start to make plans on scheduling when that's going to be on Tuesday, July the 4th. And we are still in a period of radio silence.
Pretty much. That sounds about right.
Toot Toot Award. Who do you got this week?
Boy, this is hard, but I feel like I got to give it. I feel like I got to give it to Arn because of that promo. But there were more. There were more than one. I could have gave it to multiple people, but I got to give it to Arn because the main event was really good.
Yeah.
Who are you giving yours to?
In the spirit of being the magnanimous leader of the people that I am and always shooting everyone straight, I'm going to give it to Sting. I thought Sting worked his ass off in this match and did what needed to be done to get that match over, and he was really good.
That's a shocker, man.
It shouldn't be, because it's the clear answer in a field where I liked Cactus and I liked Arn, but I called it right down the middle. Yeah. And I ain't joking. I'm not fucking around. I'm not. That sounded like Harper.
Yeah. You do always say that, though. You call it down the middle. So you're going with Sting because of what he did in the main event.
I thought Sting did. And it's so important right now that we keep getting new talent, that he helped Bagwell look good, and that's almost as important as the match itself.
Yeah. No, this was good, man. He's
giving Bagwell credibility by standing next to him, so he needs to be good when he's doing that, and he was.
Yeah, this was good, man.
We kept him off the microphone, which is a definite grade letter improvement.
Yeah, especially after last week. Remember how upset you were with his
terrible. All right, well, we have a weekend to go enjoy, and I'm kind of done. This went longer than we thought. You told me we need to be 50 minutes in and out because these marks don't deserve a second more, and here we are this late into the show. I think it's time that we get out of here.
That's funny because that sounds like something he would say. Oh boy, you're an
idiot. Thanks.
All right. Well, I don't have
you too, buddy.
What's that?
Love you too, buddy.
Okay. On that note, Doc, I don't think we have anything else. This was another great episode. Become a patron. Clash of the Champions coming up tomorrow. Doc, hit the tagline and let's get out of here.
Give me some relief.